comeback in this next game. They took KT to 3 games in their last set, but weren't looking too good in their draft. Tucson, again, not really doing a whole lot out of the jungle, taking that Devour Fizz and failing to make much of an impact at all.
He took so much of his team's gold, and then it was kind of all nicely put with a bow when we saw that last fight where he was sitting in a brush in a pink ward and didn't even try to assassinate the Kalista. He understood he didn't have the power to do so, despite the fact that he had 8, 9, 10,000 gold. Anything else from Tucson will be an upgrade on the jungle Fizz we saw last game.
Well, you say that, but we'll see.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
All right, so Thresh will be the first ban. SBENU taking that out and away from Ignar in both these games. Now the Kalista ban comes into play that IM is on the red side. They more than likely will be trying to ban out that Ryze this game as well. Will they go for the Sejuani and the Gragas? The Lulu curiously banned in that first game.
Hard to say what that was. Maybe there was just a comp they were practicing in scrims that centered around the Lulu. Maybe they expected the return of a more defensive comp, but of all champions to ban, didn't expect it to be the Lulu, as this is the second time now after yesterday's series that SBENU have been forced to ban Ryze on Blue's side. Clearly, Soul is not comfortable with this champion.
Yeah, Ryze, I think you have to be able to play that. It's not even very difficult as far as mechanics go for champions, but not having that available to first pick does pigeonhole your draft. Alistair removed by SBENU last year, so really mixing it up as we see a new ban coming to the fore, and there is the Gragas. So Sejuani and Lulu, which were banned by IM last game, will be available with the Rumble.
Yeah, they're considering the Rumble. The Rumble priority, it's been a consistent thread throughout 5.9 and now patch 5.10. Teams are really moving towards it. Cinderhulk top lane is getting pushed out quite a lot in recent games at least. They can, of course, consider many different options.
Well,
the mid lane pool is still strong.
If your jungler can play around the Rumble lane pressure and they start on the right side of the jungle so you can push forward at 3.5, 4 minutes, that Rumble can really bully out these Cinderhulk top laners early on before they have a way to really trade with their smite.
Sure.
So you have a lot of options to deny farm in that way. They are going to settle on the Rek'Sai. Apple takes Sivir for IM, and the Nautilus will no longer be up for Vivid's use.
So where do SBENU go with their comp? They're at least thinking of the Varus as a possible pick, as ostensibly going to be their mid laner. When you see Sivir Nautilus, you don't really want to necessarily pick Poke. It's really not the best comp to pick Poke into, but always consideration just with the powerfulness of Varus in this patch.
Also, the Sejuani still on the table too, another thing that can really, the Evelynn, there's a lot of shutdown here potential. So Sivir Nautilus probably, as you're saying, not something that you want to pick a double AD composition to. And that Rumble, definitely going to be a bit on the safer side. I think you take that right now. And take the Corki as well. So
and now you threaten Varus. Now the enemy team either needs to pick Varus or really start comping around it, because we've seen Rumble, Corki, Varus as a trio multiple times, even with a mid-game or early-game ganking jungler in Rek'Sai. So I feel like if you're IM, you either take it or you play around it, and now their strategic options are starting to tighten just because of a smart early draft from SBENU.
I think you just play against it right now if you're Incredible Miracle. Absolutely, you have the last pick of the draft, so why not? You have enough engage already to deal with a possible pick composition coming in. You can also balance it out with a Maokai pick in the top lane if you want Apple to go on that champion again. Yes, you lost last game, but there is that decision. You can go Maokai Sejuani here and be just fine.
And that's the Sejuani tips the hand. That Sejuani is definitely the big nope to the double AD. You can run it, but it's so execution heavy that it goes from a very viable strategy to a super, super risky one.
Yeah, so the burden of outplay definitely on the double AD composition in that situation.
Sejuani and a strong laner, whether it's a top or a mid laner, I think, and Maokai definitely qualifies as a strong top laner. Suddenly now double AD is too much of a risk from SBENU.
Absolutely. So they do have to blind pick their mid laner in the end, though. So Sasin not going to have the luxury of playing on that Kassadin unless he wants to put himself in a pretty vulnerable situation here. So what will it be? Sawson has the Lulu available that was banned out, but playing Lulu with this particular composition with a Corki not going to be very attractive.
So much magic damage in that particular case. Basically itemizing purely for magic resistant health would be enough. So you need some form of physical damage. Maybe the Jace?
I don't think you get it here, and the Jace presents many of the same problems that the Varus does.
Yeah, that's true. It's not an easy decision. You could just go to a Zero Cassio as more stereotypical mid lane pickups. You're blind picking your mid lane and never an ideal situation. They're waiting to the last second. Victor's been first pick, first ban territory on this patch, so it's locked in.
There it goes. So Victor and Braum will be the lane. They're trying to be able to block out some of these skill shots from IM. I mean, if Vivid can block something like Glacial Prison, that's going to be pretty nice. Get in the way of that and make sure that Tucson isn't going to have a good shot onto his team's composition. They have a decent amount of poke here, but again, as you said, the issue could be that they lack a lot of attack damage into the late game, which means that they're extra dependent on Nuclear's positioning as Corki to get the AD out and down onto the enemy team, but they're just so tanky.
I mean, just to your point, it actually makes it extra reliant on them picking up the objectives that Corki, Victor as a duo have always been strong at doing. It's not quite the support Vega, but throwing down the gravity shield from Victor and having the Trinity Force auto attacks from Corki has proved to be a very successful strategy. They're just opting into requiring sort of a snowball, whether it's dragons, whether it's turrets, against Maokai, Sejuani, Sivir. That's already a fearsome engage trio. So engage versus poke. I feel like the engaged side wins, especially in this case when IM have so many options of getting into that backline. Is it the flank from Maokai? Is it just Sejuani with the Glacial Prison? Hell, Sivir Nautilus, great synergy there too.
And Cassiopeia and Sivir together too. You get so much movement speed on the Cassiopeia. It's very easy to put down the consistent DPS within this composition. Cassie, just so strong, and it has been a default pick for Frozen. Really no surprise that he would just go on to that pick last year.
And I'm not usually a fan of Cassiopeia in dive comps. I usually prefer her, say, peeling for a Callista with the Petrifying Gaze. But when you've got this sort of engaged Sejuani, Maokai, Sivir, you can fight aggressively and you won't drop the poison because you just got so much move speed. If you ever register a Q, you're going all in.
Yeah, I actually really like Cassiopeia in general with Sivir in whatever composition, just because the follow-up from that initial poison is so good. And Sawson on Victor may have some issues. So I am here responding to that last game with a very heavy all-in composition. SBENU looking for that Corki Rumble mid-game. Let's see if they can do it. Get into the game.
SBENU with the very vocal fans, a couple of voices, but definitely very much in this game. They've got a lot to be excited about. Their team's first victory. Now, of course, teetering on their first series victory. If they can pick up the win here, a comp very reminiscent of the Coup Tigers. They definitely like to play a lot of these execution-heavy, neutral fighting comps, but man, the engage from Longzhu IM is crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure this Braum is really going to be able to do enough to peel right here, and Rek'Sai, no great master of peeling either, so keeping the Sivir and the Cassiopeia from just mutilating your back line will be problematic.
There is one battle that SBENU's bot lane cannot lose, and that's in having sick mustaches, because it's the mustached duo going to be rocking it in the bot lane.
When can we expect your sick mustache, Papa Smithy?
I'm the best at growing mustaches, but look, I'll put it on the pile of things to do. Get Good is on there as well, so we'll see how we go.
I want you to have a giant waxed mustache. That's what I want. You would look magnificent.
I'm sure somebody can organize a photo just for you.
All right, so looking at just some bottom side jungling and standard lanes in this match, so no really too surprising, no early shenanigans. For all the Sejuani bans we've seen today, finally we actually get to see her picked.
It's the Rek'Sai versus Sejuani jungle matchup. The power in the lanes is there. So sometimes you think, okay, Rek'Sai going to be able to get in the face of Sejuani, contest her second buff, for example. But when you're talking about Cassiopeia, Maokai, Sivir, these are champions with a lot of lane control, early pushing options, early dueling options. Going to be a very safe Sejuani, despite the fact they're not being forced into, say, a jungle follow to hide that Sejuani.
Well, there's also the weakness of Rek'Sai in the early game, nerfed pretty substantially in terms of base HP.
Sure.
In the early game, so you are taking an increased risk on 5.10 when we talk about what you can do with that aggression.
Sassen forced onto the cleanse as a summoner option. Obviously going to be very necessary against all the CC, but the dueling advantage for Frozen, even in terms of summoners, now exists. Sejuani should basically get the free farm option. And it's on SBENU to make things happen this game. They have a comp with very specific power spikes based around the likes of Trinity Force and the double magic penetration items from Rumble. You don't make those things happen, you just get outscaled. It's the reality of what they've picked.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Well, they're starting to make a very clever gank around the side, trying to find an angle. Catch going for the long tunnel on this gank right now. Roar finds himself in a bit of trouble. He gets stunned. There's a flash knock-up. Roar goes down for first blood. Catch picks it up with the E and dragged down under the turret. Catch with a little bit of tricky pathing right there.
Yeah, the one buff into the gank was the option that he chose. There was no jungle follow, so you would have expected him to be on the top side of the map, but very nice move. I think it's come to the point where you really need to start warding that particular entrance, as it's such a unique thing that only champions like Shaco and now Rek'Sai are able to use, and used a super effect there by Catch.
Yep, and that means that first blood on the Rek'Sai. Will he start to put down some more aggressive posturing for Tucson? Will he start to invade that jungle and attack this Sejuani before Sejuani can really swing into full effect here? Also, potentially has some options here in the mid lane if they want to go to the Cassiopeia, though. Catch's flash is down now. And also can give the early blue buff over to Sassen, which could be quite helpful.
Sassen registers some poison onto himself. But look at this all-in. Has the Ignite as well. Cleanse available. Still dies, though. Solo kill to Frozen, but Soul's there.
And here comes Tucson into the fight. Frozen goes down 2 versus 3 in this mid lane. They can't deal with this yet. Bromstun not going to proc on anyone as they pretty much disengage, but Vivid there from the side before Ignar could arrive, and that means the 1-for-1 trade is completed, but Frozen getting that solo kill in the mid lane.
You just don't often have the flexibility of taking Ignite on Cassio. Cassio is all about not dropping your poison, so you usually have to take the cleanse to respect a CC, but the only CC on the enemy side is a gravity field that can be flashed or easily dodged. The knock-up from Rek'Sai, which is instantaneous, and then Braum, which requires setup, so free to take Ignite, and solo kills the result.
Well, you really don't even need to worry about the gravity field, because unless you're already stunned,
sure,
then it's just not going to actually activate for a stun onto you. And they don't really have anything besides a Braum pass or a Braum Q and a Rek'Sai ability just to even set up any kind of crowd control with this team composition.
The Braum and the Rek'Sai Unbow are both like instantaneous CCs. You don't even drop damage during that half a second, 1 second of being knocked up, so able to take Ignite. It gives the Sejuani so much defense, because of course you're going to play on the back foot if you have Cleanse versus Ignite, especially Ignite Cassio, and now gets a solo kill, so it's working in both regards. Hiding the jungler, allowing the Sejuani to just farm up, and also causing multiple people to have to rotate to mid to help Sassen out.
Yeah, indeed, and that'll help a lot with the tier stacking as well. Frozen getting a bit of freedom. He's not going to really mind if he dies as long as he's the one who ends up with that kill. Sassen gonna have to be moving into probably an early Abyssal here to help control Frozen, but not really a whole lot that they can do while Frozen decides just to play further back and farm up under his turret. And now there's a big threat too. The flash down. Tucson's gonna have an option right here. He's got 6. He can come back mid right now.
He's considering his options. Catch is going to sweep out the ward that, of course, was popped out by before. They have a level advantage, like you mentioned, although Catch doesn't get any sort of combat ultimate when Rek'Sai finally hits that level 6. Sejuani's spotted an award, but Sassen has to be so careful. He still has, what, 30 seconds those cleanses available.
Yeah, very dangerous situation in that mid lane. Catch wants to make a play here, but taking out a Maokai.
Hasn't shopped yet, so he's only level 6 with a Doran ring. It's still going to be super hard, obviously, but once he shops, that window's completely closed.
Yeah, Tucson still maybe considering the Arctic Assault over the wall straight into it. He's going to go for it, misses the Glacial Shroud. There's the slow from the Petrifying Gaze. Stun goes down onto Frozen, but here's the follow-up. I don't know if Sassen's going to get out of this one. Frozen's closing in with those twin fangs, and that's going to be it.
It probably didn't even need to flash, but easy pickup. Cleanse was literally 10 seconds away, but wouldn't have saved him in that regard because the whiff, the ultimate whiffed.
And wow, Tucson. Yeah, I don't really think Tucson needed a flash at all right there. Frozen pretty much had that one locked down.
Catch is still level 5. That is super awkward as a fast farming champion like the Rek'Sai. 13 CS, now 12 CS behind. It's a big disadvantage to have against the Sejuani, and you have to think the Cassio mid with Ignite has caused the Rek'Sai to have to try and relieve pressure when Sejuani was happily farming.
That's definitely true. Well, now Tucson going to be coming back. Look at this. Uses that assist gold to go for a Sightstone before finishing the Cinder Hulk build. So now he's starting to really move into the enemy side of the map and snowball with the vision.
I love it. Just because you're against a comp that needs to control dragons, suddenly you're going to have overwatered areas around those objectives. If they don't pick up these dragons, they will get naturally outscaled anyway. So don't rush for that Cinder Hulk. You'll get it eventually. It's a good item buy, obviously, with the health that it provides. It's just a smart pick. And forced onto a Negatron is Sassen. I just wanted to return. You were talking about the Abyssal Scepter. I honestly think Sassen's best recourse in this lane is the likes of the Death Ray enchant. It's the likes of the cooldown reductions, because you want to just AoE wave clear and then exit lane. You're not looking to trade at all with the Cassio. If you're taking magic damage, you're probably mispositioned. So I think you have to build offensively to survive this lane, and defense is just going to make it worse for the victor.
Well, with his current deficit, that is certainly appearing to be true.
There's nothing he can do. Cassio has complete control of this wave, and he has to overextend so far to just try and death ray down the minions.
Yeah, with no damage too, and it's a Negatron versus a Negatron right now, so any kind of sustained trade is going to be in favor of the Cassiopeia. And look at that catch, just backing off immediately. His bottom lane abandons the lane with a recall, and he's not comfortable trying to take that dragon any longer. Ignar going to peek into the pit and step on a tunnel.
Get a bit of gold as he's scoping out vision, so no dragons crucial. We mentioned the dragon timer being a big win condition for SBENU, and at 10 minutes there's certainly no area to do that. Honestly, Rek'Sai probably needs to spend some time around mid, try and get some pressure for Victor, because if Victor's consistently going to be denied in this mid lane, it's going to present its own problems in the late game, but it means that picking up a dragon's almost impossible.
Well, I just like IM's composition, because I think that when we talk about SBENU, they're the ones who are typically out of position. They're the ones who are punishable, and IM picked a composition that is so easy to punish with, because they have so many different forms of hard crowd control that can all be linked together, that any one person that catches SBENU out of position can snowball a team fight very rapidly as the rest of the team arrives and continues the CC train. Plus they have the Sivir to punish those errors as well. So I was designing a team comp to really deal well with SBENU's weakness. This would be pretty high up on the list.
Well, the Sejuani pick is the master stroke. It's the one that really closes the strategies available to SBENU. They were kind of forced onto Victor, just having to pick a meta champion to go into the mid lane as a blind pick. Red side really seeming to favor IM strategically, because they just haven't been really outpicked like they were in game one. They have a very smart balanced comp, and this mid lane's only going from bad to us. 25 CS advantage and experience advantage for Frozen.
Yep, and there's a very awkward Petrifying Gaze that doesn't find a mark.
Didn't get interrupted, just whiffed. Sad.
Frozen charging through these gravity wells so far.
But honestly, like, even without the ultimate, the kill pressure is still super high now that Ignite is available again. So whiffing an ult, usually just a bad thing. You feel really bad about yourself, but doesn't lose any of the lane pressure that he already had.
Yeah, it's obviously not too much of a concern considering that he always has that Ignite in his back pocket. Catch, try and solo this one. Tucson on his way over, and now the all-in happens in the bottom side, but Catch has to, again, take a tunnel out. Catch trying to be cute in the Dragon Pit, but he's not very kawaii.
He's being cute as a early pressure jungler against a farm jungler, and look, looking cute's wonderful. It's all good. It's dandy. People like you for it, but
you should try it sometime, Papa.
You know, I try these things. I'll put it back on the list with mustache. But there's nothing like. It's just sending Catch further and further behind and suiting Tucson to a tree. A T, not a tree. No Maokai.
No, there is a Maokai.
Shh.
He's got to head up into that top side.
No rush to go to the top side. The Maokai doesn't have any kill pressure on the Rumble with a Sejuani gank, so just been an island in top, and Apple's just been outscaling.
Especially with Sejuani, who goes for Sightstone over Cinderhulk. There's a real
You make it sound like Sightstone versus Cinderhulk's big in terms of damage. It's pretty much the same thing.
Well, it especially since they toned down the Cinderhulk a little bit, where it's not as impactful. It used to actually make quite a bit of difference. But since they toned it down and made it just that strong against monsters, it's certainly not as potent as it used to be.
I'm happy to see Victor prioritizing the death ray. Needs any wave clear options just to allow him to push and pack up lane, as we were alluding to before. So hasn't been forced to go into an early Abyssal, expecting Soul to have that basically the next time he backs. So double Abyssal, no priority on the SBENU side. I'm just going to try and get back into this CS game, 30 CS behind, but as you can see, death ray completed suddenly has pushing options.
Yeah, definitely a lot stronger than before, but what they have to consider is, again, the very early emphasis on the magic resist like we saw last game. Roar has been doing just fine for himself and is going Bloodthirster first.
Bloodthirster Sivir. So, let's try and unpack it. 2 ranged auto attackers on the team. It's better for sieging, so it's that case where you get the shield, you get a couple more autos in. Sivir's always had excellent turret damage potential with the ability to cancel her auto with Ricochet, but very risky at 500 range. So that's the only reason we see that. Sarsen getting dueled again. Only an Abyssal Scepter complete. Poppy was only in range for that aura for the last of the Twin Fangs, but a lot of damage already coming onto Sarsen.
And I really am very skeptical of this. I think what IM is trying to do is just survive the incoming poke storm from Corki, where there is the threat of some towers going down to siege before they can actually. And here come the TPs actually. Roar with the flash out, missed ultimate from Vivid. And there are canceled TPs from both top laners, no one making it down.
Unfortunately, SBENU, another one of their poor teleport ganks. That was such an optimistic use of the ultimate.
I actually am surprised that IM didn't complete that teleport and just turn that one around, because Tucson had a flank from the river right there. And seemed like, oh, and there's Soul just getting caught right over the wall.
Fighting around the Cassio, so strong. Catch should be able to get away, but with Dragon's Point, no, we're going to see another fight. Nuclear's super low, is picked up by Raw. It's 2 kills. Dragon should be a free objective. And this Dragon win condition from SBENU, first one comes down. That means that if we're talking about 3 or 4 for SBENU answering, that's much later into the game. This win condition is rapidly shutting close.
Yeah, I think that Incredible Miracle really just have such a strong hold on this game. The power spikes just aren't going to be there for SBENU when they need them, as Frozen already so incredibly far ahead in this laning phase that he's going to remain a threat for a long time to come.
To the point where he's happy to leave up this turret, just keep denying minions. He wants this laning phase to last forever, because even with the Death Ray, not even able to pick up another item when he backs his Sarsen. No mana, so that will actually work out quite well for the Victor, but that's the only real window for Victor in this lane.
Yeah, he's going to be able to sustain some of it up here, though.
The nerfs did come through in 5.10.
That's true. That is true.
A little bit harder. 1.5% of your max mana when you
it's actually a big nerf, considering that it was halved from 3%. You really don't have those same options that you used to.
I think it was, I mean, to be honest, to me, it's probably more of a factor from the top lane Cassio that kind of came through when there was really no hope of getting a blue buff. It closes some windows, it makes it less flexible, so it's definitely a relevant nerf, but, you know, you pick up the blue and you're fairly happy.
Okay, well, are they going to take down the turret right now? Victor already recalling, going back for the second Hex Core upgrade, and hoping to return to lane and do something, anything here. Cassiopeia just sticking right next to the lane. Interesting movement from Frozen.
So the second Hex Core is about giving yourself some extra mobility with your Qs. I believe it's 30% boost to movement speed, which is a lot. That's a very high amount of percentage movement speed. My issue is that he's just going to die when his cleanse is down 100% of the time. How do you avoid all the targeted and ranged CC coming through? The CC are plenty on the IM side. I just don't think it's a good use of 1,000 gold. Honestly, I'd rather see the beginnings of one of these cooldown reduction items because it's only poke spells, it's only multiple rotations that he'll be relevant in a fight.
Yeah, especially when paired with this Corki, you want that. You want to hit the CDR now so that you can match up your timings with the Trinity Force, which has already been completed here, and start setting up that siege in conjunction with perhaps an equalizer to force people off the tower. So now that they are not going to have so much of an option on that front, SBENU...
Dragon Dream is dead. Okay, it's on life support. It's not quite dead, but it's on life support. Honestly, I think even the Poke Dream is dead because they've got an Aegis completed now on Tucson. They're going to press Sivir, ult, and run it.
They have an Aegis. They have a Bloodthirster. They have an Abyssal Scepter and a Cowl for Apple in the top lane.
You just run at the team.
Who are they going to poke out right now? Roar, normally this item, this Bloodthirster wouldn't be too terribly useful, but in this particular instance, it may be able to do the work necessary to get them over the hump into that late game where SBENU really doesn't have very many opportunities.
Oh! That was a lovely engage coming through. Frozen with the flash ultimate. Cleanse available, though Sussen gets away. Didn't have flash, so needed to hit that gravity field. It's a good Victor mechanics, but man, I like it when you go for those aggressive moves like Frozen did.
Couldn't get the kill, though, and there's not even anything to chain that into. So I think that was a bit unnecessary by Frozen because now he's sitting in the middle lane where he could get ganked without his flash up while Victor's going to have his soon. So that put him in a moment of weakness just for that outplay, but there's nothing he can actually turn it into.
He can turn it into a highlight video. The sick
okay.
outplays.
Someday we'll get the LPL out of you, Papa Smithy. The sick outplays for no actual reason.
They get you fans. Maybe a sponsor.
Yeah, well, Frozen could probably use both of those. So I see where you're coming from.
Oh dear. Picks up the blue buff. So just happily bossing around in mid. The Poke Dream is dead, Monty, because honestly, with the items that are picked up, they have 400 different initiation options and Sivir ultimate. Poke only registers when you're scared of the damage coming in. When they're 5-man group to Poke, that's just the go button for IM to pop on the hunt and fight.
Well, not to mention that they could just simply outlast the Poke damage here. They can sit under the hailstorm of Death Race and Corki Rockets while they take a dragon and
it's not a hailstorm with no CDR.
That's true.
It's a slightly irritating laser. You might think it's Rumble, but no, it's actually just the Death Ray.
All right, here we go. Tucson in the shadows. Oh.
Yeah, spotted out. So, just happy to back away. The map pressure's decent from Catch, and they at least force IM away from their bottom turret, so that's at least the first turret of the game going down, but really needed to have a couple of turrets and the first dragon to really justify the champion picks they've got. And honestly, the only reason that LZIM don't have a turret is that Frozen's just refused to take this mid lane turret on one order.
I actually really don't like that he's done this. And the reason why is because how does SBENU get back into this game? They somehow miraculously make this poke work. How do you make their poke not work? You force them to overextend in the mid lane, or you just ward up their jungle where you can see them setting up for the siege and you catch them within their own jungle with all this hard CC that you have. Leaving this tower up is absolutely horrendous for Incredible Miracle because now possibly this Corki has a chance to come into the mid lane and defend it even longer and put pressure down onto your mid turret instead.
The only counter theory that comes through, obviously, is extending a laning phase that was going so well for Cassiopeia. But I agree, when you have so many pick options, both AoE and single target, take your chances, get in the enemy jungle, push up your vision, and contest for buffs. They're going to finally press the go button, though, but they still can't get down this bottom turret. And it's so much standing gold. It would be a 5,000 gold lead, or at least pushing towards that, if they actually cashed in on their chips and took these turrets.
I think you have to do that in the mid lane, because losing that mid lane turret is such a blow. It's a blow in any composition, but here's a teleport on the hunt is popped as Catch tries to tunnel in, but nothing there except for a dragon on the other side. No Scuttle Crab to take, though. Tucson already securing that objective.
Apple actually gets to walk down, so theoretically they can exploit this teleport advantage and start pushing the top lane. That seems to be Apple's first point of call. They're not rushing into a fight. There are power spikes you have to respect from Corki, especially on the SBENU side, but fighting in this sort of an area is a risk for SBENU. We're waiting to see if there will be any dragon pressure. There's one down, it's gone down to IM. If they get a second one, that's basically the death knell of hoping for any sort of fifth dragon potential. If you're SBENU, they finally get that out of turret in mid, but it requires Raw rotating all the way to mid, pressing the spell shield and taking it down.
Yeah, just having that Bloodthirster shield there to walk straight up to the tower. Okay, so...
Okay, now they can exploit the teleport advantage. Apple can happily go top. You now force SBENU to clump for potentially a massive engage from one of the multiple initiation options. Teleport's coming through, expecting a gank.
Well, they have the speed shrine. Gravity field is now down. They should just engage this. And that'll be the dragon actually taken by Catch. And honestly, I am flailing a little bit. Soul on the side, Equalizer, but Roar and Frozen are just on top of him. Chaos Storm is down. Wow, I am really could have pulled the trigger on that way sooner and engaged that straight up from the front. Instead, both Roar and Frozen end up awkwardly positioned on a ledge with the Rumble where there's no follow-up to that kill.
Crucially, they did not have the On the Hunt available from Sivir. Just came up after the fight was over, so they couldn't quickly reposition with the burst of boost speed. They were separating their threats. They weren't fighting with their tanks. Big positional mistake gifts SBENU this first dragon, and suddenly there's a bit of hope left in the sails for SBENU.
Is that where your hope is, in the sails? Do you sail on the ship of dreams, Papa Smithy?
I mean, a 2-0 win for SBENU would be a dream. Look, they picked up Soul with the Bloodthirster. Didn't even have to respect the fact that he was sitting on the Equalizer for multiple ticks. He still takes up 40% of his health. Cassiopeia does nothing this entire fight. Has the Petrifying Gaze. Even has both summoners available. But without the movement speed, could just never position. It's one of the reasons why I don't like, personally, the Sivir Cassio, is that you have to extend for damage on the Cassio. You miss the poison, suddenly your damage output is what? More than halved. It's about 20% of its other potential. If you're fighting with a Callista, at least you know people will run at your threatening AD carry. And Bloodthirster Sivir, not so threatening.
Depends on how much peel you have.
Sure.
And IM certainly has sufficient amounts to actually help out the Cassiopeia if they're in a better position. I mean, yes, SBENU did win that fight, or lose that fight, but with the dragon and now the top lane turret, there's trading towers right now, it appears, so still getting that dragon, quite important.
And it can't be overstated that a team that outscales being 3,500, close to 4,000 gold ahead at 25 minutes bodes extremely poorly for SBENU.
As long as Tucson doesn't get caught right here, he's going to try and get away. Chaos Storm is down. Frozen is there in the choke, just getting stunned by the gravity field. Has to flash back into the storm. He's on the run trying to kite this out, but he's going to die. And that's it. A nice pick, but Catch falls in the end to some of the damage over time from Frozen.
A 1-for-1 as Frozen once again whiffs on the ultimate. Cassiopeia has not been working out for him this game. The 1-for-1 probably flatters.
Now, Roar did get the tier 2 right there. Okay. So actually that 1-for-1 trade for Incredible Miracle definitely in their favor.
Sure.
So even though it was just jungler for mid lane, and on the face value of that, Frozen losing out a little bit, the objective that Roar managed to acquire as SBENU peeled their way through the jungle and all-in onto Tucson, who was really the reason why that entire chain of events went down in the first place. Tucson living, but shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Real emergency itemization coming out from the SBENU players. Needed a large rod after the Abyssal Scepter, so no haunting guys. Obviously would like to itemize in. That's a very, very squishy as this Rumble. Even a non-Infinity Edge build. In fact, with the 3 items, I guess it equalizes out. But significant kill pressure onto this Rumble. Basically only an equalizer bot. So why not just go Leandries in that case?
I actually disagree with going the Last Whisper this early, because there aren't any substantive armor items, so you're probably actually better building into your Infinity Edge before you go for the Last Whisper right here.
To me, and perhaps the reason you do that is that Infinity Edge takes a long time to actually get really efficient. You want to complete the item, so if you're just sitting on a BF sword and suddenly some Snowball Chain Vests show up, you feel a bit sad about yourself, you can't really itemize easily into the Last Whisper. I agree that the immediate power is nowhere near as high as a BF sword, but given how expensive that item is, there is that potential you fall behind and can never actually finish the item. With the teleport, though, waiting to see an equalizer, Souls alone is very squishy.
And Apple shows up as well. There's the depth charge already down. Tucson manages to nail a Glacial Prison, and it's all going to be cleanup from here for Frozen and the rest of IM. Soul falling to Frozen for the double kill. Ambitious to actually go for that. They thought they had a TP play, but Apple was already up in the top side, and everyone from IM capable of closing on that so quickly.
The teleport players from SBENU have been their undoing far more than they've reaped any rewards from them. It's a Rumble, super squishy, doesn't even have a health item completed at all, barring the door and shield. Trying to over-engage against a high CC comp and paying for it, baiting 3 deaths. They have a lot of Baron damage, especially if they have blue buff and Cassio. They don't. So they can try and hope to poke out this team, but honestly, it's not going to happen.
Nope, and that will be Baron secured. Tucson lands the smite for the killing blow. And quick empowered recalls to go take out some more items here. What will this Cassiopeia have at the end of the day? You know, interestingly, still not Seraph's Embrace on Cassiopeia. Very, very much delaying that item.
There's no backline threat, Monte Cristo. She's not worried about getting and taking damage until she's put out what will be masses of damage. This is kind of, on the LPL side of things, you have 2 schools of build. You have Data, who likes to build the Rylai's early to be more of a bruiser in the front line, or Cool, that likes to stack AP. And stacking AP with no backline threat, with only a Rumble who basically dies instantly when he tries to walk into any of this poison damage, is a very valid build.
Especially if you have just the money to go back and pick up one of those big 120 AP items. So IM has a nice fresh dragon to take, and there's really nothing at all that SBENU can do. The waves aren't very well prepped for Incredible Miracle at the time, however.
I've heard that one before.
Well, I think you're going to hear it a lot this season.
Yeah, nothing has changed since the KT Rolster series, where they spent 30 minutes doing nothing after taking a Baron. Definitely not their strong suit. In fact, you can see the blue minion wave up top lane for SBENU is pushing into IM. Basically equal in the bottom lane, but they have so much power. The dive is a high potential. We saw the Righteous Glory popped, but decided just to pick up the free objective and back away.
I think they should have just gone for the dive there if they found something, because they're such a wrecking ball at the moment. They can just move through these turrets so easily. And the Maokai certainly with enough items right now to tank out the majority of the damage. Instead, they all have to back off. Apple used that teleport, so he can't just split push at the moment. Everybody has to play passively. Now, Roar is in wave clear mode as Apple tries to set up these minion waves, and there's a slow push developing in favor of IM in the bottom side, but it's going to be a long time before these minion waves can do anything at all.
It's going to be such a slow push, and the team hasn't really shown any ability to fight around minion wave advantages, so probably going to come to nothing. But as you mentioned, a very slow push coming there. Still the Baron buff riding, so still able to push out waves happily.
But Baron buff's going to be gone by the time these minion waves actually hit a turret. So I am again showing weakness in that side wave manipulation, not able to set up plays or really play around their edges particularly well at all.
And I come back to your point of just diving. I agree. They have so many items on their front line. Spirit Visage, Righteous Glory, Frozen Heart Maokai. Basically unkillable.
I mean, come on. If you're going to go Bloodthirster first on Sivir, you might as well go for the risky plays in terms of the dive.
And then to add on to that, actually going to delay the Infinity Edge further with a Spectre's Cowl. If that doesn't say turret dive, it's just a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have to commit to this one right now if you're IM. But they seem a little skittish. They also should be playing further behind the turret right now. They should be wrapping around behind and really forcing this one. There's no way that SBENU should be able to defend this within a 10K gold deficit, and they will back off. But playing behind the tower right there is so strong. There's no reason for Maokai to be in front of the team. You have enough peel.
It's 5v4 and the teleport wasn't up from Mobile. Must be poor communication. Maybe they didn't keep a timer. But that's the easiest turret dive in the world, or as you mentioned, Frozen could just walk behind, poke with poison, has the engage potential with the Petrifying Gaze, because they're forced to run at her to get out of the way of the Sejuani ultimate, but instead, they get the minimum out of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, they get the tower, but you could just absolutely swallow up the entire SBENU composition if you're this far ahead on IM. And like you said, you see that split pushing in the bottom lane. That should be the instant all-in for Incredible Miracle. Even if you somehow manage to lose that fight, you set up the minion waves already. So there is no danger. Is there a dragon? No. Is there a Baron? No. Can they push fast enough to shove all the way back to your tier 2s when you have all 3 lanes pushing? No. It's a zero-risk play. The worst you can do is give them 1 or 2 more deaths. And that's assuming you somehow manage to lose a 5v4 with a 10K gold advantage.
And that's the thing that top teams do, is they force you into bad decisions. Do you want to lose to the side minion wave push? Do you want to engage on what is going to be a fruitless engage? But instead, IM, as you mentioned, they just aren't thinking on that extra level. It's the sort of thing where you'd hope they would watch these replays as a team and just analyze it. If they just adjusted their strategy a little bit, a bit more aggression, a bit smarter on their side minion wave pushes, they just set themselves up into situations where 8 times out of 10 they win instead of just kind of going for these 50-50s or taking the minimum.
Yeah, and every time that you don't take an advantage here, we move into a late game where, yes, IM will have inherently the advantage with their team composition, but who wants to be in a game where a Baron steal could absolutely wreck you and win the game instantly?
And that's a feeling that IM should have very recently in their minds, having just suffered such a loss, Monte Cristo. So you'd hope that that would have been enough impetus for them to play with a bit more aggression, but a week comes and it doesn't feel like much has changed for IM.
I've just felt that way so far about watching them this season. They showed a much more decisive ability to play League of Legends in the qualifier, and ever since they've gotten into the league itself,
were they your big hope? Did you think they were the team on the up this season?
I thought I was intrigued by them. I was definitely intrigued. I didn't bank a whole lot on them, I would say, but I thought that they had at least some gumption, some chutzpah, if you will.
Those are some good words. Can you repeat them again? Gumption and?
Chutzpah.
Beautiful.
But they just haven't demonstrated that level of confidence since the qualifiers, even against a team like SBENU. And sure, they want to play this game out safely, but they're in League of Legends, because of the cap at 6 items that you have, there is a risk to playing too safely, where the gold lead you have acquired, every advantage that you have spent 50 minutes in a game building up, just gets tossed right out the window.
And that's why you could use, like, some people would use the word methodical about how IM are playing this game, but I wouldn't. I don't think that's correct, because they're just literally not understanding their immediate strength. And as you mentioned, you get to 60 minutes, it's a crapshoot around Baron, someone steals it, someone aces, one person's out of position, and you lose the game.
You miss your CC, because late game team fights are so much about who actually hits the crowd control, because there's so much damage going down that 1 second can mean the difference between victory and defeat if there's an AD attacking you with a very high attack speed.
So it's not
lands a couple of crits.
So it's not methodical play, it's just, again, it's just too slow, it's not taking advantages that were left at your feet, and it's opting into that 50-50, and it's unfortunately been IM's calling cards.
Well, to IM's credit, they actually did do the safe thing right there, which is take the dragon with your AD carry. They're executing the split push right now. Both top laners have that TP up, and now they're transitioning into a Baron.
I really hope that the 5th dragon isn't the win condition here. I really hope that we're not sitting and chatting like
Here
this.
we go.
But that's the flank coming through the home guard enchant. They're fighting in a choke against a Rumble.
And a Braum, but Apple is going to find his way onto Nuclear. There's the... Oh, wow, Tucson actually melting right there. 4 members still up. Such a dangerous choke point to fight in. Victor, Braum, Rumble, and Tucson just not on the same page as Apple in terms of getting that engage off.
Another fight where Frozen has everything available. Flash, Ignite, the Petrifying Gaze. They finally make the assertive move, but smart kiting back from SBENU into a choke that could only suit the basic double equalizer. The equalizer and the death rate so similar in terms of execution, and both ripping through Tucson.
Well, it was just Tucson was there early. Basically, he wasn't there at the same time to capitalize off of Apple's flank. So here we go again.
Here we go. There's a flash into the Petrifying Gaze. They get 1 pick, they get 2. Apple waiting for his cooldown to assassin. They could back away though. Rek'Sai comes in super aggressively, does catch. But with those 2 kills, they don't have the jungler crucially, but maybe it's finally going to be Baron time.
Yeah, I think it is. Tucson back up right now. He's zipping over to this Baron. And they should be able to take this extremely quickly with low risk. They have a Ring of Wards. Frozen can zone out any jungler play on the outside. Baron number 2 for IM. Now the question is, can they use this one better than the last one?
Okay, so what does a good use of this Baron, given how the game stacks up, given where the minion waves are, what would you do?
IM, I think, is absolutely right to go clear this minion wave in the top lane right now and then set up for a recall after the pressure is already on. So they should just send Apple right here. Okay. That way, SBENU has to go deal with that in the top side. Recalls go down while they push up the other 2 waves on the map. Okay. And now they will be able to respond. I don't know why Frozen, everyone's in the jungle right now. Tucson just took Krugs. Frozen just took Gromp.
He actually already had 6 items, just to be clear. He did not finish an item.
No, didn't need that. None of these guys needed those extra jungle camps. And instead, they've lost some valuable time that they could have spent pushing.
It's actually the minion wave pushing against them in the bottom lane. Now they're calling Sivir over to clear that. No teleport from Apple, so obviously the closest person there is just fine, but feels dangerously like we're going to see another one of these stalemates. I guess the pass mark to me is breaking the base with this Baron.
Yeah.
So let's see if they can finally engineer that. Will it just have to be the all-in push?
15K gold, and SBENU lacks any kind of big tankiness. Meanwhile, 3 big tanks on the side of Incredible Miracle just to push forward into this base. You see the Iron Elixirs as well on that side. Maokai split pushing. No one in the bottom, but there's a minion wave that's getting close to that turret.
And what IM have bought is Victor to actually catch up in CS. Only 10 CS behind what has been an awful matchup for him against Frozen. Actually has 3 items. Raw is forced basically to go and tank turrets. What's what you can do with the Bloodthirster Shield? It gets a bit of damage done, but almost feels a bit Assassin takes a Petrifying Gaze, dies instantly. The reverse kill comes in. We're fighting here. It's actually surprisingly close. Finally, Nuclear joins the fight. Raw takes down Soul, though. We're just watching this fight unfold, and it looks like it's going to be a big win for LCIM.
Yeah, finally, they're able to actually push forward right here. They get some sort of catch. Frozen pays for it with his life, but they will destroy the inhibitor. Don't think they can get much more right now. Maybe that top turret. Or are they just going to tank this out? Only a few minions remaining, but the death timer's still over 30 seconds.
This team has been in this position before. Remember, they lost a game with all 3 inhibitors down, so they're trying not to make that same mistake again. Minion Wave finally pushes up. Sivir's free hitting at the back. This should be the win for IM.
Yeah, there's the last inhibitor turret right now. Still 15 seconds, so IM is going to take us to a game 3 right here. Closing it out in 41 minutes versus SBENU, working on that hard engage composition this time around.
And look, there was 25 minutes of good, solid play from IM in that game, and 16 minutes of kind of meandering and not really understanding how to close out a game. That probably shouldn't be too big of a surprise, given they're on the lower side of these standings. But the same problems exist for them. Executed well in the early game, though. Can they pick up? I mean, both teams, honestly, kind of come in carte blanche in the third. Who will come out and win? Who do you think, Monty?
I think IM will take it. I think that now that they have keyed in on some of these hard engaged compositions, that they're going to be able to take the win and exploit SBENU's weaknesses a little bit better.
It's going to have to be the way. It was a very accomplished win, too methodical, though too slow. And if they play like that against top teams, they're really going to struggle.